Hello, my name is Kumar Goswami. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Komprise. So today we're going to go into 3 different chalk talks and sort of dig into some of the details behind Komprise and how we do some of the things that we do. But to make it all meaningful, I'm going to give you a short background, who we are, what we do, and I'm going to end with a quick demo so that you have a visual understanding of how our stuff works. And then we can really dig into some of the architecture and have some of the detailed conversations. So very quickly, we were founded in 2014, and we are a platform to manage unstructured data at massive scale. And when I talk about unstructured data, for those of you, I'm talking about genomics files, seismic data, log files, audio files. If you flew in here, when you flew in, those flights each generated huge masses of log files. If you drove in here on a Tesla, you generated log files. So it's a massive influx of unstructured data. And so we're working with large customers who have that data. And some of our customers are quite large and are managing almost up to 100 petabytes with us. And that translates to tens of thousands of shares. And when I'm talking about these customers, I'm talking about large enterprises, companies you've certainly heard of, as well as some of the smaller companies who are in industries that generate a lot of data, for example, genomics. But in terms of the verticals we work with, financial, health, manufacturing, EDA, entertainment, government are some of the areas where we are involved. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is that IBM and HP resell our product worldwide. That's a quick background. And let me tell you a little bit more in terms of how we got started. So when we started in 2014, we figured we're going to be coming up with this platform to manage data. We need to really understand. It's imperative that we understand the pain points of our customers and what it is that they are looking for. And so we put a concept together, and we began to work with and talk to potential customers and prospects. And here's what they said, and I think it's very interesting. First and foremost, they talked about how they really needed insight into their data. They were all talking to us about how data was growing in huge chunks, and they really didn't have any idea where it was growing, how it was growing, who was growing that data. And for them to make informed decisions, they needed insight. But in addition to that, what they told us was, make sure that insight is actionable. To give us insight, but not allow us to do something with it is not very useful. To give us insight and for us to kind of stick it in our head and go somewhere else and go manage it didn't make sense. So it had to be integrated, and the two had to come together. And another thing that they told us, whatever you do, don't get in front of our mission-critical data. We definitely want to manage our data. We want to be able to save money. We want to do it efficiently, but not at the cost of screwing up our day-to-day business. And that was very, very critical, and that came out loud and clear in some of our meetings. And finally, show us the path to the cloud. My CIO went to some forum. They came back, and he wants to go to the cloud. I need a way to get to the cloud. My CIO, my VP of IT is asking for it. So it's very critical that you be able to do that. And of course, for us, even before we went out there, we realized that the data was growing at massive pace. We needed to be able to scale to manage that data. So the idea was that from day one, it had to be highly scalable. And we felt that to be able to do some of the things that we do, we had to be able to move data transparently. And so that's what we came up with. These are, if anything, the 6 philosophies or 6 tenets which is a bedrock upon which we built our solution. All right? And so now, if you think about it, the solution that we came up with has 3 architectural pillars. And let me walk through these pillars. First is what we call dynamic data analytics. Now here what we're talking about is to address what they wanted. Provide insight into their data. Now they don't need to know about each and every file when they have 40 billion files, but they want to know things at an aggregate. Again, what's growing? Who's growing it? What kind of files? So that they can make some informed decisions. We're at a stage right now, folks, where the data, there's just so much data, you can't wing it anymore. You can't just sort of buy more shares as you go along, and you can't just back up all your data. We don't have, the backup windows aren't big enough. So we have to find other ways to do it, and this is how we go about doing it. We allow our customers to know first and then act. Know first and then decide to migrate. Know first and then archive. And to be honest, know first and then invest. And that's what we heard loud and clear, and that's what we focus on, and we'll show you that today. The other aspect of it is that you need to be able to do that analysis in place. So what we're learning is these enterprises have huge amounts of data, especially at the edges. Again, coming back to your flights, the data, the log files that are generated from these flights show up in different locales across the US. And they aren't able to bring all of that data back in. So you want to be able to analyze that data in place across your storage silos, across your vendor silos. And that's very critical. And that is something that we do. And we'll show that to you in the demo. The other aspect of it is, of course, they want to be able to look at their 40 billion files and make specific decisions. And so we have another thing called deep analytics, which allows you to create, with a push of a button, a virtual metadata lake so that you can do search, find, and tag your data across all the data in your enterprise. And we're going to show you that. And in fact, that's going to be the first Chalk Talk that we're going to provide today. All right? Now, one of the things is, again, if you know and you've made decisions, we use that, and our customers use that to migrate data. They use it to copy, replicate data. And they use it, for example, to confine data. But probably our biggest use case is archiving data. So we have, and this is going to be the second Chalk Talk, is that we have a way to be able to archive data without disruption. Be able to archive data so that the end users have no idea that that data has moved. So they go back in the same exact spot, and they see that data, even though it actually does not exist there at all. Additionally, we're able to do it such that all your data protection workflow doesn't change. Everything remains the same. And probably the most important, as I told you before, we do it without getting in front of the hot data. All right? And when you archive, there are a couple of things that you need to work on to have for that archival to be successful. One, as I mentioned, is that no disruption. So it should be transparent to the end users. It should not interfere with hot data. But of course, why does anyone want to archive? Well, let me tell you one thing. We've looked at our customer base, and we've noticed that across all of our customers, 76% of their data hasn't been touched in over a year. That's huge. We didn't expect it to be that high. Now imagine if you could take that 76% of data, get it off your primary store, and put it all into some cheaper secondary storage, whether it be a cloud, whether it be an object on premises, or maybe another NAS. That can save you huge amounts of money. But guess what? You can save even more money if you archive before you back up. Because again, that 76% of data, if it's getting backed up and then you have 3 copies, that's an unnecessary use of backup. So you can actually reduce your backup license, reduce your backup footprint significantly, and that's where massive savings comes in. You got to archive before you back up. And of course, we allow that. There are some transparent archival solutions out there that actually don't reduce your backup footprint, in which case you're not saving any money, and I don't see what the point would be. So we make sure that you can truly save significant amounts of money. Additionally, you want to be able to archive without lock-in. So imagine that you've got a petabyte of storage from vendor X. And over a few years, you've migrated, I should say, you've archived 5 petabytes of data. Now, let's say it's time to end of life that vendor, that storage unit, and you want to go to a different vendor, vendor Y. You should not have to rehydrate all of that data in order to move to vendor Y, right? You do not want to be stuck that way. You want to be future-proof. You want to have the flexibility to pick your infrastructure, change your infrastructure when it's necessary. And so we allow that to happen. You can easily go from vendor X to vendor Y without having to rehydrate data, and that's absolutely critical. So anyway, our second Chalk Talk will talk about this. And the last thing I want to bring up is that when you are archiving a huge amount of data to save costs, you need to be able to extract value from that data. In my example, I talked about a petabyte of storage, and you're archiving 5 petabytes of data. if you look at it, that's a huge amount of data, and you want to be able to access that data. You want to be able to, and especially if you look at it, we're at the cusp of, where AI and ML are going to have a significant impact in how we run our companies, how we become more strategic, become more competitive, become more efficient. But if a significant portion of your data from which you can use for AI and ML is locked up in an archive that you can't access, how are you going to extract value? So when we archive, we actually archive in a format native to the storage device that it's archived onto. Now that allows you, and this is what we mean when we say that's the third pillar, direct data access. Now it allows you to be able to run AI and ML applications on this secondary store while your primary store is offloaded and used for your day-to-day business. It's a great way to be able to more efficiently use your data and extract value from your data. So these are the three architectural pillars, and we're going to have a third Chalk Talk, and that's about our cloud management solution. So everything I've said today holds double in the cloud, okay? IDC talks about the fact that by 2025, almost 50% of your data will be in public clouds. And with the cloud, it's so easy to set up a couple of accounts, and before you know it, you have a few hundred buckets in each of those accounts. And your bills keep going up and up and up, and you pay as you go. So proper data management, visibility into what's going on is absolutely critical. And that's what we're going to be talking about in our third Chalk Talk today. So with that, I want to quickly give you a demo and show you a little bit about the product so you get a sense of how it works. And then we're going to jump in. So Mohit here is going to help me kind of navigate and drive through it. So here's what happens. We go into a customer, and if they have the VMs and things ready to go and permissions and so forth, we can actually get this up and running in about 20, 30 minutes and discover your shares and start analyzing your data. And we give what is called, and this is a demo, but we give you what is called a green donut, all right? And so that donut basically tells you how much of your data is more than 3 years old, how much of your data is between 2 and 3 years old, and so forth, and how much of it's fresh, right? So you get a sense of just how much data you have and what the age of that data is. On the right-hand side, you can see we give you cost savings. How much could you save if you were to archive a certain amount of that data? And these cost-saving numbers are based on your cost. So the customer comes in, and they can enter whatever cost they bought such and such storage devices, such and such price, backup cost them so much, and if they use Komprise and let's say go to AWS, this is what the price is going to be for all the archive data. They can put that kind of information in. It takes a minute or two, and now all the pricing and everything that we provide them is based on their data growth rates, and their costs. And that's very powerful for customers to be able to see that. We also tell them what's going to happen over time. If they continue at the rate that they're going, what's the growth pattern going to look like? How much capacity are you going to need? And if you put our plans in, how will it change? So on the left-hand side, also, if you notice, we can actually play with the data. We can say, hey, look, what happens if we move everything that's more than a year old or more than 3 years old? And the donut will change dynamically as that's happening and allow you to do sort of what-if analysis. And then if you're ready to...
Can you break it down into like types of files,
Yes, so very good question. So let me go to usage, okay?
Oh.
So now you can say, is it video files, is it audio files, is it log files? And you can change all of this. For the genomics guys have completely different kind of files, okay?
Can it do things like application-specific files?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Different applications.
Yes, and so each of our different industries, they will pick the file that makes sense for them,
right,
and they can look at it based on those kinds of files. Absolutely.
Do you also have profiles that they can apply, or it's a manual process? I mean, I'm interested in office profiles, videos, and cat pictures in general.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that maybe a profile for a standard enterprise, and then genomics guys have totally different profiles. So is it just to choose pre-configured profile so I can have different views?
Yes. You can just come in and say, yeah, you can specify. We go with a standard set. Okay, and many people, that's good for them, but for others, exactly as you mentioned, say, no, I want to change it. These are the files that I'm interested in. It's a little GUI that you put in.
Do you check only the extension? Okay.
Yes, we basically focus on the extension that give us the file type.
So Kumar, is this an appliance that gets installed, or is it software?
Yeah, so we're going to dig into that, but you're absolutely right. It's a virtual appliance that we have a director. That's what you're seeing. The console is running in the cloud, but it doesn't have to, because some of our customers are dark, okay, and so they want it completely in-house. But otherwise, yeah, you have VMs that run next to your storage devices, and that's kind of the approach. And we'll kind of walk you through that architecture today.
It's NFS as well as SMB?
NFS
Both.
as well as SMB.
Mixed protocol as well.
Mixed protocol, yes.
Okay, can you actually like find out file duplicates, zombie files that are
Yes,
place?
yes, absolutely. Zombie files especially, because one of the things that we found, like one of our companies was spending, I forget, between 1 and 3 million a year on data left behind by people that are no longer in the company.
Oh, this is very common in oil and gas.
Yeah,
I've been doing oil and
exactly.
gas for 20 years, right?
Exactly.
It's a lot of mess.
Yeah, exactly. So you can save a lot of money. And so not only just the kind of files, we also show you file sizes so you can understand, how long migrations and things are going to take. If you go down, we can give you things like space consumed by your top owners, your top groups, your top departments, things of that sort. So you know who to go after. And also these reports that our customers generate has two things. What I'd say it's great for the executives so they understand where their data is and what kind of data is there. But it's also great for the IT guys to go to the end users and say, guys, look at this. Look at how much data you have. Let's say video files, and you haven't touched any of them in 2 years. And so that enrolls the end users into working with the IT team to archive in things, because the IT team has real data that they can show.
So you can provide different reports to different
yes.
people in
And
the organization.
Yes, so a lot of our customers are saying, my God, this has really helped enable the communication between us and the people's data that we manage.
Okay, because one of the challenges that I've seen actually is, the files. Actually, the most relevant files sometimes can't be found. Sometimes it could be sitting on somebody's laptop. Sometimes it's in the NAS drive. That kind of thing, right? Can you guys actually kind of like the kind of relationship to see what versions is actually the most relevant?
Oh yeah, not only do we find all kinds of things, for example, we've been able to show that, hey, you got paths that are so long, you can't even access the data. Really? And they try, oh, you're right, oh my God. So we find all kinds of, that, these storage vendors recommend only so many files per directory. We found directories with 1 million files. I said, what are you guys, So we give you all sorts of other information as well, which I'm not showing you here. There's another section which gives you transparent, it's called metrics. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details, but it goes into all kinds of things that we find inside your storage device, including cycles and other things. So yes, it really helps them not only understand their data, but in sometimes actually clean up their data.
Okay.
Okay? So Tony showed you uses. Let's just go to the shares page for a second. Very quickly, this is where you come in, you can discuss the files, you can add file servers, and this is where you add file servers, decide what you want to enable, and so that you can operate on those particular shares. I won't go into any details there. So, and as I mentioned to you back at the plan page, once you've done all this analysis and you know what you want to do, in this page itself, you can edit and say, here's my plan. I want to archive data that's more than a year old to such and such storage device. And when you do that, it fires it off and starts, and as based on that policy, continues to do that on a regular cycle. So it's sort of if you look at it, this is why we're saying that this is sort of an integrated, analytics-driven data management platform.
To throttle the quantity of files that are moved per hour, for example, or per day, so that, because if I have 5 years old files and I say I want to move all the files that are older than 1 week, and it starts to move 10 petabytes of file. So everything stops.
So so one of the things is the way we do even our analytics, right? So even when you're moving files, you're looking for files and finding files. That whole analytics piece is adaptive. So when we go in and ask for information, if it takes the file server too long to give you that answer back, we actually slow ourselves down. Okay. If it goes fast, we speed it up. And so there's that adaptivity that we built in. But I'll tell you one thing though, a lot of these new file servers, they have such huge amounts of cache and so forth. They can sustain some massive,
No, I think when you move to the cloud and you have, bandwidth that you are
Yeah, you can throttle
Yeah.
the bandwidth right there. I'm showing. You can set how much percentage of your network you want to use, and you can throttle it.
You identify.
And most companies will have a throttling mechanism as well, right? So they will have a riverbed or something like that, and they will.
They can, yeah.
They can
With
throttle
it.
there too.
Yeah.
That's a good point too,
Yeah.
yes. So, okay, so that's,
So
yeah.
the archive location is defined by you guys, or is
By the end user, they pick what they want.
so
And
they could be object storage, it could be,
On-
bigger, faster, slower, bigger archive
Yep.
NFS solution.
Yep, or it could be a public cloud,
Yeah.
gov cloud. It's up to them. And they can pick multiple targets. It's not like we have one target and have
And you
these shared
mentioned
go
the
to
fact
that
that it's
target.
transparent to the user. So if a data is being in the midst of being moved and somebody goes out and accesses it,
Yep.
Chalk talk
Yeah,
number two.
we're Chalk talk, yeah, that's
Number
Chalk talk
two.
number 2. Hold that question, it's a very good question.
Yeah.
But we're going to dig into it, and these guys will kind of show it to you and explain how we handle those things.
Can you do tapes?
Sorry?
Tapes.
Tapes.
Oh,
Okay.
tape. We don't do LTFS, but if you give us an NFS interface or an SMB interface, we can. And there are several tape drives out there that do, and we do work with them.
Can I ask you, so in this analysis, I see all the files and where they are organized in my storage, okay? So can I also analyze the behavior? So once you are in, okay, you have a picture of, a static picture. But on day 2, you have a different picture because something happened, okay? So you start analyzing what is happening day by day. What happens if somebody starts to encrypt everything one day?
If they stop what?
Encrypting everything, like a ransomware attack, okay?
Okay.
Can you tell me, look, there is 10% of your files that were encrypted today? That would be an interesting, kind of notification.
Right,
Like,
right.
I'm under attack and maybe I can do anything, but maybe would be nicer to have.
That's an interesting.
I mean, it won't be a report like that. What you would see is suddenly, like if you see the hot data, like a lot of your data will become hot because they've really modified.
Yeah,
your
something like
data.
that. So
Yeah, but there are no notifications for that right now. But that's something absolutely.
Yeah, and that's something we could look for.
yeah,
You know,
I mean, somebody's stealing my files, somebody, security kind of notifications.
Yeah.
yeah, because this is not static in the sense that we're continuously, scanning and looking at what's happening.
No, yes.
Yeah.
In the
And
moment
so-
that you're
yes,
scanning,
yes,
theoretically you can
yeah,
give
exactly.
me
So we should
more
be able to,
information.
yes, exactly.